welcome and thank you very much for being here. My name is Filippo Pallaroni and I'm the Training Center Coordinator at the EU SME Centre. So as you can see today, the topic of our event is hazardous waste, and I have the pleasure of sharing today's event with Veronika Griglaseska, the Business Advisor at the EU SME Centre, and Phil Shu from 4Flow Consulting. We are also waiting for Bella Wang from SGS China, and connected from home, we have Irun from Westbridge Consulting. Let's start with a quick glance at the agenda. So, right now, I'm delivering the opening remarks. We're going to have a quick introduction about the EU SME Centre and our work. And then we're going to have the first keynote speech. The first keynote speaker is going to be Veronika, and she's going to introduce the report on hazardous waste that we prepared last year in November, out of which we decided to organize this event. Following Veronika's presentation from online, we are going to have Iron's presentation. She's going to detail the challenges that the European SMEs face in navigating the hazardous waste market. And then we are going to have around a 40-minute panel discussion in which Phil, Bella, and Iron will contribute as panelists. I'll be the moderator, and hopefully we can also have some questions from the online and on-site audience for a 10 minutes Q&A. So, the EU SME Centre, as you can see in the slides, the idea is that the EU SME Centre helps European SMEs explore the Chinese market. But a little bit of background on the project. So we are a project that is fully funded by the European Union, by the European Commission, and we were born in 2010. And this project aims at assisting small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, this is why the name of the center, that are either from EU member states or participate in the single market program, and we try to get them ready to do business in China. And one, let's say, the initiative, as I was saying, was born in 2010, and now we are currently in the fourth phase, that, as you can see, will end in 2025, and we are waiting for news on a possible phase 5. For what concerns the implementation of the center, we rely on a consortium based of 4 different members. We have the China-Italy Chamber of Commerce, the leading partner of the consortium, the European Chamber, thanks to which we are here today having this meeting, and then based in Italy, the ICCF, so the Italy-China Council Foundation, and based in Portugal, SPI, so the Sociedade Portuguesa de Inovação. And together with these 4 consortium partners, we have 2 associated partners, Trade Promotion Europe and the EU-China Business Association. One last important element about the EU SME Centre is what we do. So the center provides many services that are all for free since we are an EU-funded project, out of which we have those 5 that you can see in the slide. First of all, we have the self-diagnosis tool, that is an online tool that allows companies to have a first feedback on whether they are ready to enter the Chinese market and whether they are ready and knowledgeable about the different, let's say, factors at interplay in the market. Second of all, we are a knowledge center. What does it mean? That we produce reports, articles. One example is the hazardous waste report that we are commenting today, and therefore we try to put forward as much information as possible for companies that are looking at China as a possible market. Third, we are an advice center, meaning that we offer first-line advice to companies. Veronika here is mainly in charge of that, meaning that there can have some one-to-one consultations to help SME owners to get ready for China. Fourth, and this is the section that I'm in charge of, we organize trainings, and this is precisely why we are here today. So we organize face-to-face and online training programs to raise awareness, and we try to bring experts that can discuss the topic in detail and provide more information and reply to those answers that sometimes maybe the report are not answering. Finally, we are also an advocacy platform, so we tap into the well-established resources of the Italian and European Chambers of Commerce in China, and therefore we try to bring forward and bring to the Chinese relevant authorities the main concerns that these companies might have. Coming to today's topic, let me see. Great. So I just wanted to quickly give you an overview of why we are here and what has been the recent focus of the EU SME Centre, and try to explain why hazardous waste. So as you know, China has recently become an actor well aware of the environmental concerns that surround production, industrialization, and as you can see, and you have probably seen with your daily life here in China, in the past years, there's been a lot of improvement to tackle some of the environmental challenges that emerged from the great industrialization that this country had in the past decade. One example is that China is a global leader in green innovation. The 14th five-year plan included environmental targets. So China set forward some targets such as a carbon peak in 2030 and carbon neutrality in 2060. But what does it mean for European companies? Why are we here discussing that? Well, first of all, from this environmental consciousness, there are many opportunities. For example, renewable energy technologies are some of the fields in which European companies have an edge, and that can therefore mean they have a bridge to enter China and they can be competitive. Environmental technology, including waste management, water treatment, and air pollution control. So this is another key sector in which European companies are able to be competitive, and therefore today we try to analyze waste management as one of these subsector which makes sense to explore, and then green consultancy and ESG services. Clearly, as you will see with Veronica's presentation, and Iron's, these come with challenges. As you know, it's not easy to comply with different regulations. If you come to Europe, then you have to adapt to the Chinese one. Data protection is a problem that European companies have been consistently reporting. And finally, as you know, local competitors are one of the biggest challenges to European companies that are trying to sometimes survive in such a competitive market. So with that being said, I think that I can leave the floor to Veronica, who's gonna introduce the report.
Lipo, thank you for the introduction. Good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Weronika Gryglaszewska, and I am a business advisor at the EU SME Centre. Today, I have a pleasure of introducing our report, China Hazardous Waste Sector, Market Regulation and Opportunities for European SMEs. This report is not just about waste management. It provides an in-depth analysis of a rapidly growing market driven by Chinese commitment to environmental sustainability and technological advancement. Our in-house experts have analyzed this sector, shedding light both on opportunities and challenges that European SMEs may face once on the ground. The structure of the report covers three main topics. First of all, hazardous waste market. Second, market entry requirements and regulatory framework, and practical tips and strategies. And because we want to make our report as much as possible practical, we also included the interview with business practitioner, Mrs. Irun, who will be also the speaker during this event. First of all, we have to understand the Chinese hazardous waste landscape. So in general, hazardous waste encompass industrial waste, medical waste, and other waste, such as sewage or pesticides. Key sources of hazardous waste include industries such as chemical, mining, machinery, pharmaceutical, and household wastes. This is not just a challenge. It represents a market full of the opportunities for specialized technologies and services that can address these unique needs. Of course, the government oversees a key in this sector. Three main bodies supervise hazardous waste management in China. The first one, Ministry of Ecology and Environment, which sets the overarching policies and standards, but it should be noted that practical implementation of these policies are largely delegated to the local authorities, particularly at the county level or above. The second one is National Health Commission, which is responsible for managing medical waste. And the third one, the National Development and Reform Commission, which focuses on industrial policies and overall development of the sector. Two key drivers fuel the market's growth: government support in form of the policies, funding and regulations, and technological innovation. In 2022, China generated over 95 million tons of hazardous waste, an increase of 10% than previous year. The market value was approximately 45.7 billion euros, projected to exceed 81.6 billion by 2028. The market is concentrated in Eastern China due to high industrialization and urbanization of this region. And as we can see from this slide, East China, particularly provinces like Shandong, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang, accounts for a significant portion of hazardous waste generation. However, opportunities exist across the country. Understanding the geographical distribution is crucial for targeting your market entry strategy. The hazardous waste treatment industry in China is structured into three main segments: upstream, midstream, and downstream. Upstream segment comprises primary sources of hazardous waste, industries and entities that generate hazardous waste during the manufacture process. These sectors include energy, chemicals, medicals, and electronics. Most upstream actors are state-owned companies. Midstream, this segment comprises actors that provides the equipment and services necessary to the transfer and treatment of hazardous waste, laying the foundation for the industry. And downstream segment comprises actors that are involved in the management and operation of hazardous waste treatment. They focus on recycling, pre-treatment, and harmless disposal. So in simple words, upstream is sources of hazardous waste, midstream equipment and service providers, and downstream management and operations. Now let's tap into market entry requirements and regulatory framework. Successfully navigating this market requires a deep understanding of the complex regulatory framework. While the hazardous waste sector is classified as encouraged by the government, the regulation can be quite intricate. Being classified as encouraged, sector for foreign investments typically means that the local administration may offer various incentives to attract foreign investors, such as tax benefits, preferential terms of land use, or office rentals. But of course, compliance is essential. The cornerstone of solid waste law is the National Hazardous Waste Catalog, which classifies the waste types and dictates how they should be managed. This slide provides examples of items included in the catalog. The catalog defines hazardous waste types and stipulates strict requirements for collection, transportation, treatment, and disposal. Understanding this catalog is crucial for obtaining necessary business licenses and ensuring compliance with regulations. Additionally, the National Medical Waste Classification Catalog outlines specific requirements for medical waste. distinct from the general hazardous waste regulation. Grasping these distinct rules is crucial for targeting specific market segments. This table details the classification of medical waste into 5 main categories: infectious, injurious, pathological, pharmaceutical, chemical, along with the requirements for each. But beyond this catalog's compliance with national standard on pollution control, waste identification, and safety is also necessary. Many of these standards align with international ISO and European standards, which can simplify compliance for EU SMEs. The example of these standards are included into our report. Now let's explore some opportunities. EU SMEs have significant potential to benefit from several key areas. First of all, hazardous waste recycling and reutilization in terms of machinery, equipment, but also management and consulting. The second, hazardous waste disposal in terms of technologies, equipment, and solutions that enhance the efficiency and reduce the environmental impact on incineration, landfilling, or stabilization. And of course, integration of cutting-edge technologies such as big data, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. However, it's also crucial to recognize the challenges as well. The market is fragmented with intense competition, requiring significant upfront investment in technology, infrastructure, and regulatory compliance. Navigating a regulatory landscape can be very complex, and you should be well prepared for this. And of course, technology transfer and intellectual property protection is a key consideration for any European SMEs looking to enter the Chinese market. And also you should be aware about shortage of skilled professionals, especially in the recycling sector. So what practical steps can you take to navigate this complex market? Here are some recommendations from our report. First of all, analyze local 5-year plans and development plans to identify specific needs and opportunities within the region. Build strong partnership, develop robust relationship with local businesses and government agencies. Strong partnership can provide valuable insight and support. Protect your intellectual property, implement a solid intellectual property protection strategy to safeguard your innovation as you enter the market, and of course, understand regulatory landscape beforehand, familiarize yourself with the relevant regulation and standards that govern hazardous waste management in China. So in conclusion, China hazardous waste sector presents a dynamic and rapidly expanding market filled with significant opportunities for well-prepared EU SMEs. That's why we wanted to create this report to serve you as a valuable resources. And you will read it and download it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Veronica. I just want to make sure that, as you can see, there is the QR code to download the report, but you can also have access to it on our website. As I was mentioning before, we are a knowledge center, therefore it's a free service that we offer. In addition, we will also send out the slides if you need to go through some of the tables that Veronica showed before. Now, I think that we can pass to the next speaker. We have Irun connected online. She's the China country manager at Westbridge Curium, and today her presentation is going to focus on the challenges faced by EU SMEs in navigating the hazardous waste market. Iron, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm in Greece now. I'm doing a project here. So first of all, thank you very much, EUCHAM and EU SMEs to organize this event. So I will now jump into the discussion and hope to share some experience that I have faced. So today my main topic is that it's challenges for the EU SMEs to open the market in China. Before starting the discussion, just to give a brief introduction of Westbridge Curium, which is a joint venture company with Westbridge Technology in Shanghai and Curium France. So Curium France, we have 30 years experience in hazardous chemical and radiological risk management. We have projects in 20 countries and we speak 10 languages to serve for a very specific hazardous waste globally. So basically, we provide two main solution, which is project management and technical consultation. So from basic to study on contamination diagnostic and also compliance study. Sometimes we also do nuclear industry, the environmental audit. And also we do the process consulting. For instance, some of the chemical parks or on the process, they want to do a process development and to diagnostic. Or sometimes you also, maybe we are considering waste reduction. So waste reduction or recycle process designing. So we can do such kind of process. And we also had the experience that one of our clients wanted to do on-site disposal of the hazardous waste. So we can do such kind of process, including from the analysis and the pilot test and up to the equipment, and can treat the waste directly on site for specific hazardous waste. And decontamination is also one of our main strengths, especially for neutralization and emptying, dangerous gas emptying and cleaning. So this part, if we decontaminate on site, and this part can already reduce the waste production for client point of view. And the last one is the industrial site remediation, so including the dismantling and legacy products management. So basically, you can quickly see the markets that we are focusing is the clients are chemical, pharmaceutical, research lab, including the biosafety lab force level to decontaminate, and semiconductor and nuclear industry. So coming back to the main discussion, what are the main challenges faced by EU companies to enter China's hazardous chemical market? As we all know, the cultural difference is a lot. For EU companies to enter the market, we really need to have a local Chinese cultural person to develop the market and make the relationship either in government or in specific areas to build the trust. If you don't have trust, basically we cannot make any business. It's very hard to build a business relationship. And the second point is that it's a really closed loop structure from the production unit to the local government and to the final hazardous waste disposal process. So for instance, in Jiangsu province, you will everything already set it. So when it's closed loop, how we can enter and break this closed loop? If we don't have a very specific technology and ideas, it will be very difficult to break this closed loop. Third part is that the geopolitical complexity. So sometimes for same hazardous chemical, region to region could have different way of managing and different policy. So in that case, if you are focusing on one type of hazardous chemical, and then if you go to an area that they do not really focus too much, then you cannot do any business. So we really need to see where is this chemical already like a low point of view, and regulation already strengthened. Then it's easy to make the door open. Fourth is that data security. This part is also very difficult, because sometimes people or companies, they have a pain point. Okay, I have this problem, but we have the solution, but we are doctor. When we are doctor, we need to see some analysis and data sharing. But up to the data sharing, because of the confidence issue, we cannot get any data. So where this is the blockage, we could have better solution, but sometimes could block on this point very easily. Fifth is that the intense market and price competence nowadays, especially if we are providing on-site operational work. The local workers will be much more cheaper to hire comparing with European companies. So in that case, if you have a high high knowledge of managing, you can be the supervision for that, and then to train local team, and so that can improve for this part for the price competence. And six is the technology advance and market shift in China is very fast. So for European companies to be top on the technology point of view, it's very difficult. We cannot be all the time innovating and become stand on the top of the technical point of view. So this part is challenging as well. So in that situation, we have some, of course, we try to find some opportunities. The main point is that China is still pushing a lot for the environmental protection. So the intention is really on the right direction comparing with other Asian countries. So this is a very good sign. So in that part, some like service like compliance study, contamination diagnostic, or risk assessment could be required. Second is that if we still have advanced technology and expertise, especially for hazardous waste recycling process, waste reduction, or research and development for the process development, and this part could be very interesting for the market. And third is that the fund application for China, we have a lot of fund application, especially for new technology innovation. And if there is an environmental recovery project, it's a big project. For instance, they need to involve a lot of different experts to finish this project. So for this type of projects, normally China have a fund application so that company can apply, and then you can be the subcontractor of the Chinese this kind of third-party companies. So I think it's a very good idea to be under such kind of companies to become the expert. So who and how? Who we can always think about to make a joint venture between Chinese companies, especially if we are SMEs. We can easily to build this kind of. We bring the tech knowledge, and the local joint venture can bring the relationship and the market. And second is that always it's good to enter via your international channels. I think as an SME coming to Asia, coming to China, we already have some awareness in the international market. So to enter from the top to down could be very easy. This is where we also get some project like this in China from 2018 from our international clients. And the third one is that partner with local third-party companies who have same targeted clients and who has very strong government relationship. This could be also very interesting because normally this type of third-party agency, they don't have really strong knowledge of hazardous chemical, but they have a very strong relationship. So this is very good to discuss and cooperate with such kind of third party. Fourth is that if we are equipment companies and so on, we also can think about local manufacturing. And after we always, it will reduce the cost. So you can really target the China market and also the APAC market. But here, just a little question mark. How to protect your IP could be a little question mark. And last is how we do. Actually, there are lots of companies to companies. Sometimes we also can organize some training activities. So improving the awareness of the hazardous waste and hazardous chemical is very important. And the second is that to involve more in the law and standards establishment. Especially here, everyone sitting, if you are the member of EU Chamber or EU SMEs, if you have a chance to enter, I think always there is a chance to really involve in the law involvement. So which is very good. You already can enter to this part. So once we push up to the standards and regulation, and then of course there will be business. And then the third one is that industrial association and scientific conference in China. There's a lot of really specific scientific conference in China as well. So I think we really should work close with them. Maybe eventually for EU SME yourself to get close to this kind of conference could be also very interesting for future, to help all the other EU SMEs. Could be very good idea as well. This kind of conference normally happening in north of China, in different provinces as well, and Beijing or Shanghai. So this kind of, so it's more cooperation, and then it will be more information on how the trend is going and so on. And the last two is that if we are front end service, like if we are equipment selling and etc., we really need to focus on the planning of Chinese strategic planning for the future. And if you are back end service, like Curum is doing, we are really the between after the waste production and just before sending to the waste disposal department. So to pre-treatment and to make all of the packages, and where we are focusing is back-end service. So we will focus more on the chemical parks. Last point, what I want to say is that the EU SMEs and EU Chamber of Commerce is a very good platform to connect all of us. And here I just would like to give a very little suggestion, is that I have been attending a lot of meetings and seminars like this, but sometimes my feeling is that we are a little bit like blind dating. We don't know each other too much, and we sit there and we just finished the conference and we left. So we need to think how we can make it more dynamic. Maybe a little patch on our chest to just too easy to recognize each other. Oh, you are from which company? So that we can find each other more easily. Or if we are not so much people, because hazardous waste chemical, I believe this is a very niche market, to how to connect to each other, and then maybe a simple introduction of each other could be also very good to connect very fast each other and to help each other. And we can start from small to the big market, starting from the EU SMEs companies to supporting each other. Definitely, all of us, we have different resources and clients on our hand and strong relationships, so that we can improve on this part. I think that's just a little suggestion. The below part is just the overview of chemical parks in China. So I think what you can do is that you just take a picture, and then which part is more related to you, and you can target those areas. So some of the chemical parks are really close to the resources because they need to close to their raw materials like petrochemical and coal chemical and sulfuric acid chemicals. And some of them are really close to the consumers because they need to reduce the transportation cost. So like, for instance, the fine chemicals and plastic products chemical will be more close to the like economically developed cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, Guangzhou. And the others are coastal and riverside areas. So I think this part, if Philippe can share later, I think people can just read it. Here, this part, I just want to say that despite all of these really known areas, actually there is a policy guidance on the second point I'm mentioning. There are really specific policy guidance and planning of less developed provinces. I'm by myself, I come from Inner Mongolia. So for instance, Inner Mongolia, we also have some industrial chemical parks in Wuhai and so on. So this type of less development provinces, they maybe need even more how to say advanced technologies where you can really have a look. So this is a Chinese attaching great importance to the development of the chemical industry in less development regions. So Sichuan, like for instance Xinjiang, also they are building a lot of different chemical parks. So if you are equipment selling and etc., I think you also can have a look into this type of remote areas. So these are the clients normally Curum having, and then if here today everyone sitting, if we have similar clients, and we always can happy to discuss about it and to help each other. So to end this presentation, to navigating Chinese hazardous waste market requires the strategic partnerships and regulatory awareness. So I hope we can collaborate and we can support each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Iron. I think that now we can enter the second part of the panel. First of all, let me thank both Veronica and Iron for the extensive presentation. The first part, as you could tell, was mainly focused on giving an overview of the regulatory framework, and then Iron tapped a little bit more into the practical aspects of it. And I hope that now with this panel we can further take that line. A quick reminder, I saw that Iron mentioned IP problems. We as the EU SME Centre, we have a twin project that is the IP SME Help Desk that offers similar services to ours, but they are clearly focused on IP, so they are open to every European SME who would like to get in touch. So we had the pleasure to familiarize with Veronica, with Iron. Now I think that I can let the other two panelists introduce. First, Bella, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bella. I'm from SGS China, and this is a great honor to speak on behalf of SGS Business Assurance Department. And our focus is on ESG, which stands for the Environment, Social, and Governance Service. We are the biggest company, almost the biggest company in the testing and investigation and certification industry. And we have established for over 140 years. And our company has over 200 branches and labs in China. And our business covers almost all kinds of industries through the supply chain. So it's a great honor to discuss about hazardous waste today. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Filippo. And thanks, thank you, the EU SME Centre, for the invitation. Very happy to be here to share some thoughts with you for this topic. I'm coming from a German consulting firm with a lot of focus on the supply chain. We have supply chain consulting, software, and some what we call the 4PL service. So we basically provide some managed services to our clients to manage their logistics service providers. I think supply chain would have a lot of relationship with the topic that we have today. And again, very much look forward to our panel discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil. So I think that now we can start. My idea is so basically we prepare some questions that we received from the audience during the registration procedure, but I warmly invite you to prepare any question. We are here to reply. Also feel free from the online audience to ask your question in the Q&A, and we will make sure that we reserve plenty of time to answer the questions from the audience. So first of all, I'd like to start with Bella, and I'd like to zoom out a bit. So as you saw at the beginning, I explained the importance of hazardous waste as a subsector within the wider framework of green development, and therefore I wanted to ask Bella, how does the circular economy address the issue of hazardous waste, and what are the practices in China?
Okay, thank you, Philip. I believe one part of the circular economy is focused on recycling. Nowadays, a lot of Chinese companies has established their own effective recycling system for valuable hazard waste. For example, waste organic solvents and waste energy oils. As we know, those things can be recycled. Without recycling, it can easily be incinerated. I believe everyone knows the incineration for hazardous waste is extremely harmful for the environment. In the long run, circular economy could actually is expected to be a more efficient approach to treat the hazardous waste. As stated in the white paper, the first 5-year plan for circular economy in China development in China promotes the coordinated disposal of medical, industrial, and domestic waste. Notably, methods like using the cements and the smelling cans are adopted. Moreover, I can introduce a little bit about the EU Battery Directive. In that directive, there are clear recycling targets for waste batteries in minimum recovery rates for key metal materials. For instance, for the recycling rate of portable batteries is required to reach about 45% in 2023. So this kind of regulations has significantly promoted the material recycling in the battery industry within the supply chain. Additionally, a lot of our clients in the electronic components and the equipment industries are seeking to use recycled materials in their products in order to meet their requirements from the clients. They often turn to SGS for the ISO 14020 certification statements to verify the recycled substance of their products and the proportions of the recycled materials of their products. However, there's also some challenges. Some hazard waste, such as waste salt, are extremely difficult to be recycled due to their complex chemical properties. Actually, recycling involves higher costs. So without mandatory requirements such as the EU battery directive or some regulation from Chinese government or government subsidiaries, it's very hard for companies to take initiative in circular economy practice. To overcome those challenges, the government should issue more encouraging regulation or policies or subsidies. I believe more technological innovation could help us to overcome such kinds of challenges. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you very much. So I think that another essential part of the circular economy, and I'm directly speaking to Phil, is the focus on recycling, as Bella emphasized. So from a linear economy, we try to find the knot to go back and recreate the circle. Therefore, I wanted to ask you, Phil, what do you think about waste traceability when it comes to hazardous waste? And I ask you this because a couple of weeks ago we had an event on food waste and plastic recycling in the food and beverage industry, and we saw that traceability is an essential component of the circular economy. So I just wanted to ask you, what do you think in relation to hazardous waste?
Thank you. Now, I couldn't agree more. Traceability is an essential part of the circular economy if you want to address this issue. But traceability itself is also very broad. I think it's a very broad topic, no matter what kind of objects you want to trace, okay? And it's complicated sometimes, depending on what object you want to trace. I'm trying to address traceability for the hazardous waste management in a more structured way. So I basically want to address this issue in 3 layers, okay? So the first layer is the identification and segmentation, okay? I think this is the basic starting point if we want to address traceability and how traceability can manage the hazardous waste. And as Veronica just mentioned, the national hazardous waste catalog, that's very important because this provides the identification to the objectives we want to trace. But that's not everything, because this is starting point. And I think the second point is the segmentation of the hazardous waste, okay, or classification of the hazardous waste. This part, if we are not able to segment our hazardous waste, we're not able to manage it because it's so complicated, and it includes different types of experts and expertise across industries, which means we need policymakers and regulators to get involved in this matter by different industry sectors. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a mess, okay? And then once we have the identification and the segmentation, and I think then we go to the second layer. Second layer is the methodology and approach, okay? So how can we trace the hazardous waste? Today we trace a lot of things, but the methodology itself is very important. And per segmentation of the waste management of hazardous waste, we are able to tackle the different sectors. And the methodology itself, we need to think a lot about it because there's a different type of measures we can trace. For example, we can proactively trace the subject, or we can reactively trace, which means we can ask our partners across supply chain, like suppliers, to offer some information, and then we rely on third party to verify the information. So, or we can definitely proactively trace by ourselves. And then we can also rely on the regulators or the policies to help us to trace those waste management or hazardous waste. So we need to find approach to help us to trace, because it's always difficult for yourself to trace everything at the same time, okay? And then we come to the third layer, is the technology part, or the enablers that we can pull in order to trace those matters. So no matter if we're talking about the code, or if we're talking about other technologies like vision, identification, or we were talking about the systems to support all the code that go across the supply chain. But it's very important. Otherwise, no matter what kind of measures you want to apply, it will not work without technologies. So that's the 3 layers we need to pay a lot of attention to First is the segmentation of the matters, identification of the hazardous waste, and then the measures that we want to apply, and then the technologies that enable all the measures we can use. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Yes, this layered approach that you suggest is something that we at the EU SME Centre have encountered during our discussion with different industry professionals, especially when we dealt with some manufacturing companies in the south part of China. And another element, though, that they mention, and I think that this can be addressed by Bella, is the fact that traceability is directly connected to the disposal of hazardous waste. Let's say that is a prerequisite to have a proper handling over the disposal of hazardous waste. The problem is that many companies also told us that this handling needs to be properly fitted within the ESG requirements that different government agencies require them. Therefore, I wanted to ask you, directly related with hazardous waste, how do you think that the disposal of this kind of waste can affect the ESG requirements for companies?
Thank you. I would like to call back what Erin said. She emphasized the importance of data sharing. Actually, the ESG is the ESG rating is based on the data disclosure. Actually, the ESG data rating system tailors is materiality according to different industry. What is materiality? Is the refers to the ESG issues, which is highly or crucial impact have a crucial impacts on this industry, such as the toxic emissions. The toxic emission is one of the materiality. In the mainstream international ESG rating, such as the MSCI rating system, they assigns about 13% to the toxic emissions in the material and electronic equipment industries. So how these industries deal with hazardous waste are significantly impacts on their final ESG rating score. We have tremendous clients in those two industries, the metal and the electronic equipment industries. When we help our clients to disclose their ESG report or audit their report or help them to increase their ESG performance, we focus on the aspects such as whether they have policy or a management system of the disposal and recycling, if they have set the emission targets and what's the total amount and proportion of hazardous waste the emissions are. I don't know whether you have heard of the ISSB standards, which is international ESG disclosure standard. They have rapidly across the global. In setting the industry level issues, they refers to the SASB standards. In the SASB standards, they requires a lot of key topic related to hazardous waste for the industries such as chemical industries, electronic equipment mining and waste management industries. Generally, they requires to disclose the total amount of waste disposal and the number of major accidents related to hazardous materials and waste management and other relevant informations. For the social perspectives, the way a company deal with their hazardous waste and the waste disposal can affect the health and well-being of their stakeholders, such as their employees, the indigenous people, and some local communities. If they have the risk, if they have established some policy to maximize the risk of the environmental contamination and potential health hazards to build the policy relationships with the stakeholders. On the other hand, if the incident of the improper waste disposal or leak can lead to a public protest or damage the company's reputation, which will lead to negatively in the ESG rating or cause some controversy issues in their public relationships. Yeah, that's.
Thanks. You rightly mentioned from the presentation of Iron a point concerning data sharing. While for me, one of the elements that attract me the most from Iron's presentation is the role of geopolitical implications and the connection with hazardous waste. That is something that I was not expecting as a student of international relations to see. And therefore, I wanted to ask Iron if she could expand a little bit more on that topic. I hope she's still there and she can hear us.
Yes, I can hear. And actually, I totally agree with Bella regarding why it's closed loop and is not only from a security point of view, like transportation and etc. Packaging could be very easy in locally, but it's also to from the if there is accident and etc. It's easy to handle internally. So that's also why it's a very closed loop. This is why I said the relationship and the trust building is really crucial in this industry. And also for geopolitical complexity, for instance, for same hazardous chemical, different region and different cities sometimes have a different compliance. For instance, like Tianjin, I remember, I think last year they were already talking about PFOS to put in a hazardous chemical and etc. So whereas other remote areas they are not aware too much and etc. So this will influence a lot what kind of service we are providing and which kind of hazardous chemical we are focusing. So we really need to focus on not only the compliance regulation is already very strong. We need to target such kind of area to develop the market. And the third reason why it's a closed loop is that it's also supporting the local GDP to consume what has been produced within the area. So actually, we also provide emergency response service. But one time we received the emergency call from morpholine, which is a very flammable chemical in Qingdao port. So can you imagine if we cannot repack and etc. It could have a very dangerous for the port. But in the end, we could not do is because we are Shanghai company, and then if you are in Qingdao, you are not in Qingdao. So in the end, the Qingdao Emergency Bureau has to dispose of this. So from an international client point of view, it's a waste, and then in the end, could not do anything. So such kind of stories can happen, and yes. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. And another point that I think was raised not during Aaron's presentation, but during Veronica's, is the interplay within upstream, midstream, and downstream relations when it comes to hazardous waste. And I wanted to ask you, Bella, among these three different categories, what are the ones that usually come to you the most asking for guidance and support when it comes to deal with hazardous waste?
When it comes to the upstream, midstream, and downstream, in the hazard waste generation and the disposal process, our company is an independent third-party company, and usually we will offer some certification service or testing service for our clients. As Aaron said, there's a PFAS testing, and in our lab and testing department, the PFAS the serving is increasing rapidly last year. And for our department, we will usually provide some certification service for all the companies, such as what I mentioned is ISO 14021, which is focused on the circularity within the products, and we can verify the proportion and the material of circularity in the certain products. And what's more, we have developed another standards, which is ISO 900 series. These standards is designed to clarify the circular management capacity within an organization, and this helps the companies, whether they are involved in the production of the raw material upstream or the manufacturing process midstream or the waste disposal downstream, to manage and better manage their waste and showcase their circularity economy practices. Yeah, that's all.
I see.
Philip,
Yes, and
sorry, Philip.
please,
Just
Aaron,
to
please.
Just I would like to add a point of Bella, is that it's again, I would like to mention about this the EU SMEs should really participate positively in the regulatory of hazardous waste for China, because this PFAS was from I think from last year it started to really push, which is led by Viola, by training and by raising all of the risk, and to improve the awareness and to put this into a law in the regulation. And actually, PFAS exists in a fire extinguisher is a lot as well. So once we put this in the law and the regulation, and actually in behind there is a lot of industry will be changed. So it's very strong. So once again, I just want to say that we should really proactively to attend this regularity, especially for specific hazardous chemicals on the international point of view already mature, like for instance asbestos as well. So it could be a very good idea to push from a law point of view. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. And here I'd like maybe to quickly share an interesting element. As I was mentioning, before a couple of weeks ago, we had this event on waste reduction and recycling in the food and beverage section. And Veolia was one of the companies that was represented during the event and emphasized precisely what Aaron just said, meaning that it's very important, especially when it comes to green development and environmental targets, to act as unified voice in order to raise the concern and try to bring forward a message that, when is effective, is able to really improve the situation. And we have seen that, for example, in the waste reduction section, there are a lot of gray areas in which many companies operate. And therefore, if they were able to proactively try to bridge their concerns to the government, for example, they told us that that would really change the situation. And in
Yes.
particular, sorry, Aaron?
Yes, because not a lot of people knows the hazardous chemical, the bad aspects. So people doesn't know what is exactly. Everyone was thinking, oh, fire extinguisher is fine, but actually it's not, because PFAS can accumulate the how to say, in the human body. So it's really bad. So increasing the awareness is very important, because everyone doesn't know chemical. This is my point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that another point that was raised recently is how to properly connect these upstream, midstream, and downstream companies that operate within the hazardous waste system. And Phil, I know that you've dealt extensively with supply chain, and therefore I wanted to ask you whether you think that at this current stage, there's a possibility to improve the connection between these different streams?
Oh, thanks. I think simple response would be definitely. Yeah, so I think it's essentially important for everyone that involved in the supply chain of your company to really think about a new lens of the management, or a new version of the supply chain that you need to apply. Because nowadays we have already seen a lot of new requirement for the supply chain itself. So people adding more requirement to your existing supply chain, like carbon emission, like environmental footprint, and as well as the traditional requirement like the cost. Okay, So every time when we say how you upgrade your current supply chain in order to respond to any new requirement from the market, and I think you need to prepare, and you first of all you need to understand how a supply chain work, and then I think everyone will have sufficient knowledge to collaborate with everyone in your own company in order to develop a better supply chain. So when we started to address what kind of supply chain your company need in order to address this hazardous waste management, I think we can take a step back and look it in the more broader picture. Okay, not only first just look at supply chain, but look at your full life cycle of your products, services. Okay, it's always important to just to take it back and see what kind of product portfolio and your services in your companies. And same thing as you're managing the cost and you're managing the other elements of the environmental footprint, you think about your product, whether throughout the life cycle of your products and services, will any hazardous waste could be generated throughout the supply chain. I think this is the starting point. And then once you have a more comprehensive understanding of your products and your services, and then you started to really examine your own supply chain, okay? And then because we can always do the benchmark. Like if today you want to manage the cost, okay, reduce your cost, and tomorrow you want to manage your carbon emission, and then the day after tomorrow you think about how you manage your hazardous waste. So same thing in your supply chain, and then you need to understand 4 things. First is the visibility. No matter you manage the cost, you manage the any elements of the environmental footprint. So first of all is the visibility, okay? And then the second is the generation of the objectives that you want to address, and where are those things generated, okay, throughout your supply chain. And the third part is you need to find a way to control. And then last but not least, you needed to handle this, or in today's topic, and then you need to learn how to process your hazardous waste. I'm not sure if everyone knows that the more than 1/3 of the global hazardous waste is not addressed, is not managed on a worldwide perspective. So I think it's very important to understand the 4 aspects of your supply chain. And then you started to think about each element, visibility. Where's the visibility of your hazardous waste? Okay? How can you get information? How can you be sure that every information you get throughout the supply chain can be captured or can be seen? And then you find a way to control, like you control the cost, like everyone's doing today to control cost. And then you need to control the generation of your waste. Okay, hold on, I forgot one part. So after visibility is the generation of your hazardous waste. So once you get a visibility, and you need to understand which part that actually generates hazardous waste. Okay, and for that you need to have sufficient knowledge. You have to understand the way that produce your product or the way you offer your service. So then you understand which part is actually generating the hazardous waste in our catalog. Okay, and the third part is the control. And you need to find the control. You need to find if it is inevitable, and then you need to find a way to control it throughout your supply chain. And last but not least, you need to find a way to process your hazardous waste, or you need to handle it. But unlike the cost that you are handling every day, probably when it comes to hazardous waste, you need to add additional work or additional activities to make sure, no matter it is turn this into a renewable energy, turn this into an energy, or you reuse it make the new material, but you need to think about the additional activities, and then this comes to which we call the middle stream or the downstream, and you need technology, you need equipment, and you need the way that you add into your existing supply chain in order to really handle this. So, so to wrap up, if you think about how you turn your current supply chain into the new version that can really manage the hazardous waste, and you need to think about the 4 things. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Yes, I have one last question, and then I think that we can open the Q&A. And I want to ask Iron, because let's say that I'm an industry professional, and I'm trying to solve this issue with the supply chain. I develop my technology in Europe, and now I'm ready to go to China. Iron, do you think that the regulatory framework that I'm going to find in China is going to be more difficult to navigate compared to the one in Europe? Or do you think that's going to be relatively easier for a European company to operate with hazardous waste here in China? And another thing I wanted to ask you, similarly related, is do you think that also COVID had an impact on this, especially considering the amount of medical waste that has been generated throughout the years of the pandemic?
So basically, you are asking the difference between the European market and China's market. I think we cannot directly compare to it's but both of them are quite complex. But I think from my understanding, before COVID, for China market, there was quite a lot of requirement. But now, after COVID, I really can feel that in Europe is more required than comparing in China for my service for hazardous waste chemical to manage. Just to share easily what is the difference between China is that China to province to deal with hazardous chemical is most of the time is forbidden unless it's a very specific chemicals. Whereas in Europe, it's more like an open market. You can receive any type of hazardous waste from cross borders, even from other countries. For instance, Lyon can receive waste from Spain and Poland. So it's like more like a hazardous waste business in Europe. But also China market is also, sometimes could be very, very fast and very dynamic. Like for instance, the waste treatment capacity is increased 3 times in 5 years. So, which is impressive, and versus to Europe, to just to get an authorization, it will take some years. And the third point is that, as I mentioned before, really the awareness of public is really different. In Europe, it's much more aware of hazardous waste chemical, and most of the time, if there is the residence area is close to chemical parks or dangerous area, they will have already noticed if there is an emergency, like what kind of gas or cadre coming, and then you have to do what kind of escape and emergency point of view. So everything is more open, whereas China is more confidential, and it's more hidden. And also for emergency response, in Europe is really open, and then if you have for specific chemicals and so on, you can go everywhere. This part. And also one last difference is that in Europe, most of the incinerator is really huge, because it's like 60,000 to 80,000 ton per year. But in China, it's sometimes we can also see there are incinerator around 20,000 ton per year. So I think sometimes when we grow fast, there could be also how to say, not a disadvantage. For instance, if we have a small incinerator, most of the time it's not efficiency, because once you start the incinerator, actually you cannot stop it. You need to have on the right temperature and so on. And after, to sometimes it could also stack the machine and on the incinerator part. So it's hard to compare directly. So it really depends on the market demand, I would say. And also what I have understood from this year, lots of companies also moved to APAC. So you understand the trend is also going down a little bit. But I think like Phil said before, most still there's a special hazardous chemicals, like for instance PFAS and etc. It's coming to the law. Then after, it's a huge how to say, change for the market. So I think rather to focus on a global, this kind of global approach, I would say more to target to the niche and specific hazardous chemical. It could be very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Iron. Thank you very much, both Phil and Bella. I think that now we can open the Q&A. We are going to have around 10 minutes to answer the questions from the audience, both online and on site. So feel free to raise your hands here in the room if you would like to ask a question. We have, please. Okay, you choose who wants to go first.
Hey everyone, my name is Laura. Very nice to meet you here. So we are a PE fund with a Swedish background. So we acquired dangerous good and hazardous waste logistic and warehouse company just before COVID. So before COVID, I think it's a very niche market. So after we invested around like $30 million US. Because it's a buyout, so we're the majority of the shareholder. Before COVID, I think the regulation is actually quite strict. So the major customer for us, the international chemistry companies or kind of like dangerous good waste solution companies. And during pandemic, we did a lot of like in the Chinese government, they want all the chemical, the medical mask and all the disposal stuff. So our company did everything. But I think after recently, I think because the whole market went down, and then the government become kind of like, okay, yes, the regulations here, but because the cost, a lot of the company, they try to reduce the price, we try to, you know, to not following the rules. So it can be very difficult for us, like, you know, companies who has a lot of like 300 special trucks with special license. So I know the big companies are no problem. They always follow. The problem is like either the local companies or the smaller scales companies. How do we manage, you know, to let them to follow the rules, let them to emphasize the importance of the environmental or the other issues more than price?
I can talk a little bit about this. I'm not actually expert in this part, but it happens everywhere to balance the cost and other sustainability topics, especially during this during sometimes economy slowdown. I think for this particular topic, there is some unique attributes we need to think about, because it's not only for the individuals. Okay, the hazardous waste sometimes should be related to the public health and health safety. I think it requires the public attention, and it requires the joint effort. So when we say joint effort, it means some shared effort or shared responsibilities across all enterprises and individuals. So I think the best way to reduce the cost or to have a much more balance is to have more shared way or shared technology to manage the hazardous waste in order to really lower the burden of every single small to medium enterprises. And this is something that we cannot do by our own. And this is something we need to advocate and arise a lot of attentions to the public, and then keep advocating this. I don't see a very clear way out at this moment, because we touch upon this topic many times, not only the hazardous waste, but also other sustainability topics. Okay.
Hello.
So okay.
Maybe I
so-
don't want something.
Yes, I think Phil, I couldn't agree more with Phil. Just to add that for the public awareness for the hazardous waste, it's really lack of knowledge in, I mean, for public, and which is linked with their health and safety. So I think nowadays we have channels and WeChats and TikToks and this kind of channels. I think to share some information and to improve the awareness, this could be an idea. And also for the joint effort, I know that some of the park nowadays, especially for the hazardous waste producing in some parks, the government start to have a little machine to collect all of the hazardous chemical, maybe in let's say 1 week or 1 month. As soon as the box is full, they are collecting like this. So if you can enter to this type of chain, I think like Phil said, you can share the cost and you can collect from different parks. But to enter to this park, it could be your first door to open. Yeah. And yes, and I think this is just my thinking.
Okay.
Art and fashion. So upon my observation, especially for SMEs, it's always like more efficient and lower cost to just pollute. And like also there is a dangerous trend for some luxurious brands and or like big artists. They make production here. It's like a lower cost and the regulations are looser. Then it's even more hazardous for China. The pollution is here. So how do we raise awareness? It's very hard.
Any inputs? You know, if Iron wanted to add something, or Bella.
I think the public channel, the media, not media. I mean, to give some training or give some knowledge of different hazardous chemicals. It's a very direct way to the public. I still believe.
Okay, so media awareness probably, and
No. I'm not saying media, but some companies are doing this kind of small presentation and etc. And yeah, could be very interesting. The other part, still we need to rely on European Chamber of Commerce to strengthen the. There is a folder that every year they collect for the difficulties, what kind of problems and so on raise, and then they can discuss with directly government to government. So this for this part to improve the awareness. Yeah, from my point of view.
Actually, in our clients group, there are two kinds of clients. One is just want to meet the requirements of the regulation. They want to just spend the smallest cost for the simplest version of report or something like that. And another kind of client, although maybe their scale is not too large, only the local SMEs, they have very good awareness in terms of ESG or some kind of awareness. They want to spend more efforts on this topic, and they can also receive some benefits from their customers. Actually, I know some agriculture companies, they can recycle the waste of their they can recycle the agricultural waste and turn the waste to some engines or some valuable materials, and they can public and they can add these stories into their advertisements to let their customers admit the value of their actions, additional actions towards environmental friendly protections, and they can add more premium price to their products. And also for some mental industries, such as the companies who gain the ASI standards certifications, which is in the aluminum industries, they can sell higher price in the market, and so they can gain more benefits from the environmental protection actions. And what's more, actually some SMEs is stuck with the first steps. If they want to improve their behaviors, they need to update their equipment or upgrade their supply chain, how they produce their products. So it requires a large amount in investment in the first stage. So we are also trying to make a bridge between the financial institution and the manufacturings. We can use some green loan or sustainably linked loans or some bonds to help them lower their cost of investment. So there's another methods for lower the cost and help them to make the first step. Yeah.
I think that we can ask the last question that we received online before wrapping up. We have a question from Frank Schmidl, who's asking, many thanks. Aaron, it looked to me that you have mainly foreign companies as clients. How about Chinese companies / clients?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Yes, of course. So Frank is saying, it looked to me that you have mainly foreign companies as clients. How about Chinese companies?
In China, right? In China, it's very difficult. First of all, the cost it's a huge problem to provide. So unless it's a government project, otherwise most of the time the foreign companies will be more attached to the compliance and can pay for the cost for the hazardous waste. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that we can conclude here this event. First of all, I wanted to thank all the panelists and the two keynote speakers that we had before. I think that it was very important to try to bridge, let's say, the distance that there was between regulation and practice. And I very much appreciate all your insights and the very practical tips that we received throughout the presentation. So thank you very much. Before saying goodbye, I just wanted to tell you that here on the screen we have a QR code that you can scan to rate the event. As we are approaching the end of phase 4, we are gathering as much feedback as possible during our trainings in order to improve, in order to do better, and in order to ensure that a possible phase 5 will try to satisfy the main feedbacks that we receive from the audience. Again, thank you very much. Thank to the European Chamber for hosting us today and for the partnership that we've been built during this phase. I think that we can conclude here the event. Thank you.